What's up, Lantern fans? It's the Emerald Enthusiast, coming at you once again with another action figure review. This time I'm taking a look at the DC Universe Classics 75 Years of Superpower figure of the Sinestro Core Batman. With the impending release of the McFarlane Sinestro Core Batman, I thought now was an appropriate time to do a retro review of this figure, so let's take a closer look at the package details. The bottom front of the packaging says DC Comics 75 Years of Superpower. There is the collector button, as well as the collect and connect piece. Here is the Kmart exclusive sticker. We get product information on the bottom. We get a clear bubble at the top. The construct accessory is visible, as well as the figure being visible from both sides of the bubble. An obvious issue with the figure in its packaging is that Batman's head is blocked by the DC Universe logo. On the back bottom, we see the other figures that are available in this wave, including the fully assembled Validus Collect and Connect figure. And we see that the Sinestro Core logo has been stamped over the Batman biography. And with that being said, now it's time to bust this figure out of the package and see what's inside. Here is the figure free of the outer packaging, but still bound to the inner plastic. Here are the other items that come in the packaging. And we see this collector button with Batman, and in the background is the Sinestro Core logo. As you can see on the back of the pin, this commemorates DC Comics' 75th anniversary. Next up, we have the Validus torso, and I'm not going to talk too much about that since this is not a review of that figure, but it does have the articulated torso joint. And last but not least, we have the Yellow Energy Batarang construct. And there's actually some really good sculpting on this. And his hand just slides into this accessory. And here we see Batman wielding the yellow ring of the Sinestro Core out of the package and ready to rumble. There are numerous things to like about this figure, although I do think that there are a couple of areas that could have used improvement. So let's take a closer look at the loose details of this figure now. Let's have a look at the lower body. And I really like the way that the boots have been produced. The very tops of the boots are sculpted, and I really like that. That's usually not the case with Lantern figures in the DC-UC line. Lots of good definition here on these boots. Mattel overlaid the base yellow with a darker yellow, and that gives the boots some definition. The glossy finish on the black sections of the costume really accentuates the quad muscles. Now, this figure is fairly balanced, but I will say that the cape is heavy, so you really have to make sure he's not leaned back too far. In terms of articulation, you can get him to kick forward that much, so that could be a little bit better. The knees are a single jointed pin, as are the ankles, and this one's a little tight. There we go. So that articulates pretty well backward and forward. There is no pivoting with the ankles, although we do have the quadricep swivel on each of the legs. The hip hinges on this figure work very well, and you can actually get him into a full split, so I really appreciate that. And he also steps back considerably, although this does put some pressure on the cape, so be careful when you're doing that. But as is the case with most DC-UC figures, I'm very satisfied with the level of articulation in the lower body. Now we'll have a look at the torso. And the first thing that I notice is the Sinestro Core symbol here. It is paint, it's not sculpted, although the lines are very tight, so I do appreciate that. The lines on the yellow sections of the uniform are better than some other Lantern characters that I've seen. Here's a look at the back. It's kind of difficult to see with this cape. And much like with the lower body, I think that the upper body musculature is accurate to Bruce Wayne. You see these big pectorals and very defined abdominals. I'm also very pleased with the sculpting and paint applications on this silver section of the uniform. As far as articulation goes, he has the standard DC-UC pivot at the waist. He can crunch forward that far. He can rock back a little bit, but once again, the cape becomes an issue. Be very careful here, especially if you're rocking the upper torso back and you have the arms extended like I do here. Now let's have a look at the arms. And these are well sculpted. I'm pleased with the way that the forearm gauntlets still have the Batman style. And we'll take a closer look at the ring later. I do think that there's too big of a shade difference between the forearm gauntlets and the rest of the yellow sections of the uniform. The forearm gauntlets are more of a gold color. Although I really do like the way that this armband with the Sinestro Corps logo was rendered on this arm. And the sculpting has been executed very well on both of the hands. In terms of articulation, he has rotation at the wrists. He has the single pinned elbow, and unfortunately it only goes that far due to the size of the biceps, although he does have the bicep swivel, and I do appreciate that. Once again, the cape comes into play, and it really presents some articulation issues with the shoulder. As you can see here, I'm trying to do a 360 with this arm, and it's very difficult. I did get it done, but it feels very risky. I can hear the plastic on rubber there, so be very careful when you are articulating the shoulders. It is possible to do a full wingspan pose with this figure, so if you'd like to have him flying along in the way that a bat would, you certainly have that option. Here's a close-up of the ring, and I'm very pleased with what Mattel did here. The ring is the proper size, and it is on the proper finger, and there's at least an approximation of the Sinestro Corps symbol inside the ring, so I do appreciate the effort. There are many other rings in other lines that aren't executed this well, so Mattel deserves credit here. So before I take a look at the head sculpt, I do want to say a word about the cape. Overall, I like how glossy it is. I like the lines that have been sculpted in. But as you can see here, there's this little crimp in the side, and that is pressure from the inner plastic. And I'm really glad that I took this figure out, because I believe that over time that the cape would have been cracked due to the inner packaging. So even though I think that the rubber for this cape was a good choice, I really wish that they could have packaged this without putting pressure on that area. Here's a look at the head sculpt, and I have to say that this is superb. Oftentimes I criticize toy companies for making heroes look too angry, but I think that's appropriate here since Batman is wielding the fear energy. I like the way the white eyes have been painted. I really like the way that the wrinkles have been sculpted into the brow, and the paint job on the mouth is superb. In terms of articulation, the head moves easily from side to side. The rest of the movement is very limited. He only looks up this much. He can look down this much. Again, a very modest amount. And there's a very small degree of head tilting, and a lot of the limitation here is due to the front part of the cape. So this area could have used some improvement. Here is the figure with the construct accessory. Again, this just slides over top of the ring hand. I had to work with this for a short time to actually get this to stay in place. However, I do like the overall look of this accessory. Here is the figure in comparison to the McFarlane Black Lantern Batman, the DC Direct White Lantern exclusive Batman, the McFarlane Dawnbreaker, and the McFarlane Batrocidus. And I can't wait to add the McFarlane Sinestro Corps Batman to this collection. I actually do have the DC Direct Green Lantern Batman. However, I only have one of those, and it's still in the package. So I will get a separate one of those to review on this channel someday. However, I do already have reviews of the Black Lantern, the White Lantern, and Batrocidus up on this channel. So go ahead and check those out. And eventually, I will get a review up of the Dawnbreaker. I certainly hope you have enjoyed this review. If so, please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for some articulation shots, and also remember to catch me on Multiverse Musings, the vidcast, and that's available right here on YouTube. And I'll be back with more comic book related content soon. But until we meet again, this has been the Emerald Enthusiast, and thanks for watching.